Hello and welcome to this next video in the C# programming course. And in the last video we talked about how we can implement a basic password function into our program by just using a while statement. And at the end of the episode I already teased that there's another way to do this. And beforehand I struggled a lot about if I want to talk about the do while loop or if I leave it out, because personally I don't find it that applicable, so I don't use it as much. So basically the problem is, or that we might run into, is that we check for the condition first and then execute it. And there might be, depending on what you did above here, use cases where you have the first condition or the first test failing. So you would never ask for the password if the condition fails. And I know these two lines, they are impossible to fail. We talk about that later. But there may be use cases where you first want to do an action, then test if it is successful or if it is to be repeated. So we just implement it now. So what we can do is just just put this away. Just say do above here, and then paste the code. Or I didn't copy it, but just write it in here. So we just have it here, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to write enter password, something like this, and then just store our input of the console into our variable input. So console.readline will return a string that holds the last thing or the last line that we wrote, and we will just store this string and then check down here. So what we just do in comparison to before is we execute it once, then check it, okay? And I know this use case is not as clear to see why you would use it. But basically there are use cases where you just want to execute some behavior at first and then want to check it. But as we have seen in the last video, there are workarounds that enable you to do what we did. So just check the condition first, then do it, okay? And the way we did it, I just undo my whole thing here. What we just did essentially is made sure that our first condition check fails. So our string is empty, so when we come into here, okay, our condition cannot evaluate to true. So we have to execute it at least once, this loop. So I know that this video is as confusing as the last video was, where I talked about arrays. So not the last loops video, but I know that this video was a little bit confusing because we don't have real use cases yet. I have planned a project. I have planned to do some tic-tac-toe project here with you after we talked about basics of programming, and we are already there, or almost there. I just mistranslated there, just to show you what we've got. And if you like it, we have just this little window that pops off, and you can see there's some kind of ASCII art, and then you just can enter to start a game, and start a game then just by inputting these numbers corresponding to the field that you want to place your mark in. If you are just excited to see this, you can watch the video I have made about that. There also is a link to my GitHub repo where you can download the program and test it. But I plan to make a programming video or series about that. If you're stoked to see that, you can leave me your opinion down below. And I hope that this video at least showed you that there's another way to do it. I know that beginners might feel like it's overwhelming, so I would just suggest that you stick to the while method, because honestly I have never seen somebody use the do while loop, and even if you need its functionality, there are workarounds, so you can just use while, and basically you just make sure that your first iteration or your first condition check fails, So you just have to execute it at least once, and this is essentially it. So what you even could do, if you don't want it to input it like here that it has to fail, you have a condition that is up to the user if it fails or not. So what you could say, like, so maybe the user says that he doesn't want to have the game repeated, just to make this clear. So we see now that we don't execute, or we don't write execute, because it fails right away. What he could do is don't touch this, just make sure that we end it. Or first. So now you can see that we just executed once. So if you press ABC exactly one time, we should write execute or execution like this. So this way we make sure that we execute it at least once. And if you think about it, we just say that either one has to be true, and first is true, and you will repeat it at least once because first will be true. It's not important if the user says that he doesn't want a repetition in his game or something like this. You will execute it at least once because first is true and repeat is not true, it's false, but this is true and either one has to be true. So execute it once, then say that first is false. So essentially this variable just is important for the first iteration, and after that it's not important. I hope that it makes at least clear what I wanted to say here. And what I wanted to show you again is that you can have a look at the website ftx.eu. I'm just working on this website, so it's not the finished project here or the finished article for the do while, but you see what we did in the video, and have some pictures maybe, and something that we talked about, maybe what we didn't talk about. So if you just want to have some kind of summary for the video lecture, or if you just are programming on your own and then have questions regarding some kind of video or something, some kind of topic that we talked about. I understand that most people don't want to see a video again, so if you have questions about maybe how the switch works, you don't want to watch the video, maybe you can just read this article and then just see for yourself. Maybe you can leave a comment down below or leave me your opinion behind. Yes, I just want to show you this again because little people do, but I think it's a good idea and could be useful if you try. Until the next video, I just wish you all the very best time that you might have, and yes, have a good time.